Welcome to the Spoils of Akron podcast. I'm your host, Chris Miller, here with
Ryan Dyke.
And we've got a special guest. We're actually on location for this particular interview. This is Don Gordon from the Cascade Locks Park Association, which is part of this beautiful park here right in the middle of downtown Akron in the north side. And we're standing inside of the Mustill Store and Museum, which is another great piece of Akron history. So how are you today, Don?
I'm great. Thank you.
Welcome on this beautiful day. I think it's like 70-some degrees.
It's nice.
It's a good day to be out in the park and out and about.
Fantastic day here.
So for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about the Cascade Locks Park Association and the Mustill Store and kind of what your job is here.
Okay. A little bit about it. So this is the Mustill Store we're in, and adjacent to the Mustill Store is the Mustill home. This was a family that immigrated from England back in the early 1800s and settled here along the canal. They had 3 generations run this store. And in the late 80s, a group of concerned citizens got together because the store and the house were really run down, and they wanted to save it. They realized that it was significant historical value to Akron. So the group got together and they saved the property. So what you see when you come down here was rehabbed in 2000, and we also we steward the Schumacher site, which is across the street south of the store, and that was done in 2010. So
I do remember that. I remember that. I don't remember the one in 2000, but I do remember the one that they, like you were saying, that they revamped this area down here in 2010.
Right. Yeah, and it's really come a long way. You know, before people, think that the path was always here. Well, it wasn't. This used to just be like a little goat trail all the way. So it's taken the collaboration of a lot of organizations, which, as we know, in anything, it's hard to do it alone. It's hard slogging when you're going alone, and it helps. And that's what's so great about Akron. We have so many wonderful organizations that work together to make these things fruitful.
Sure. And I feel like there's been a renewed interest in our canal history, our locks. It seems like a lot of, there's Lock 4, which has been activated.
I think a renewal in parks.
In parks
and
as well.
going
Yes,
outside.
yes.
And that's such a great thing. That is such an amazing that we have here in Akron, is that we have great, fantastic parks.
We have a wealth of parks. And actually here, and we'll see in a bit, we'll go outside, but here we have a connector to downtown. So people can bike and hike, or it's off of the Towpath. So what's some of the day-to-day things people can do here? They can obviously come in and see the Mustill Store, get some pieces of Akron history with timelines and information about the flood that happened.
I could spend all day in this store. I mean, we just walked in, and here's the crazy thing, Don. I've lived in Akron my whole life, rode past this building multiple times, and never thought to stop in to see it because I was on a bike. I was running. I was doing something. I didn't think, hey, I should actually stop and check this out. I'm telling you what, people, if you like
stop
history,
and check it out.
Yeah, if you like history, if you like Akron, if you like to learn what makes this city just so interesting with all of its cool facts, stop in and check this place out. There's like little dioramas and everything. It's pretty cool.
It is cool. And it's a park. It's a free museum. We're open 10 to 4 Tuesday through Sunday. So, you come down here, you check it out, and outside and around is just as interesting as inside.
Oh, yeah.
It's really arguably the most significant early historical site in Akron, because really Akron started along this corridor. If it wasn't for the canal, there would not be rubber here. So the people who dug the canal, there's a lot of interesting facts about the Irish and the German immigrants that came here. Think about leaving the country for a better life, and your better life was to go dig a canal. I mean,
how about this? Okay, Chris, are you Irish or German?
German.
Don?
Yes.
I'm a little German, and I probably have some Irish in me.
See, I'm German as well. So if it wasn't for our past, descendants, this stuff wouldn't be here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It is very interesting. And, I think you don't give enough credit to the people who, really think about leaving the country with your family to go over to another country to dig a ditch for 30 cents a day. And that's
the American dream right there, Don.
Yes.
It's digging a ditch.
Right, digging a ditch. And there were some very successful immigrants that came over. We talked earlier about Ferdinand Schumacher, who was a very significant player in early Akron. It's interesting to go back and like look at his obituary and just what people thought, because you ask people what is Akron, and it's LeBron or rubber,
right.
And people don't realize that there were decades before that they really relied on the canal milling as a city,
right?
Yeah, to start the city.
And before we had rubber, we had oats. I mean,
we did have oats.
That was a big deal, right?
It's a big deal. Yes, Ferdinand was the oatmeal king. So he was an interesting guy. Oats, before he came over here, were really just fed to livestock. So people did not eat oatmeal for breakfast. That was something.
Neither do I. Gross. Ugh.
I do. I love it.
I hate it. I hate it. Ugh.
So he made it. He sold it door to door. He figured out how to make the machine that cut the oats. So he
sold it door to door.
He sold door to door. His big break.
I would love to know what his first customer was like. He was like, "Hey, I'm selling this oatmeal," and they were like, "Don't animals eat that?" They're like, "No, it's for humans.
Right.
You can ingest this. It's fine. Or consume this. It's fine."
It's okay. Well, and I think he probably went to his German neighbors.
Okay.
And so they were familiar with the product already.
That makes sense.
And then they would stop in and, "Hey, do you have any more of that oatmeal?" But his big break was he was introduced to the quartermaster during the Civil War, and the quartermaster is the person who purveys all the supplies for the army, and they gave him a first whopping order of 100 barrels, which is nothing in the army, but to him it was, this is a guy that was selling it door to door,
right.
And all of a sudden he has to, and these are barrels like the barrels you see around
He's
the store.
selling
Big barrels.
door to door, convincing people it's for humans. That is not for animals.
And the Union soldiers were tired of cornmeal mush, so they got on the oatmeal, and the rest is history.
I didn't know that, and that's really interesting. Did the orders get bigger after those 100 barrels?
Yes. So he made his first million during the Civil War.
Okay.
Selling oatmeal to the Union Army.
Dollars or
Dollars.
barrels? Wow.
Yeah.
And $1 million back then
was a lot of money.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Still is, but it was
Right.
more.
Yeah. Now, is that what's the connection? Because we were talking about that earlier, and I definitely want to get the full backstory. What's the connection with that and the silos in downtown Akron?
So that was another one of his mills. So
Okay.
there were, he had a few different mills, and one, probably the most, commonly known, was Quaker Square, where the mills were.
That's what I should say.
Yes.
It's Quaker Square, downtown
Yes.
Akron. It's now owned by University of Akron. They use it as dorm rooms and as lofts and stuff like that. It's got a convention center hooked up to it, shops and stores inside, and it's an incredible building just to
Right.
look at visually. I always think it's cool. The skyline of Akron has some really neat buildings in it. And it's definitely one to look at.
Yeah, and that was a huge mill, and it burned down. I don't know why I'm laughing about that, but
Don, how dare you? Wow.
Well, I guess it's and that was before, that was the fire brigade days. You had
A bucket of water,
and
you made a line of people, and you just
Right.
passed the bucket down.
Enough time has
work.
passed,
Right.
So I think
well,
it's not too soon.
and it is interesting because he was a very frugal guy, and he didn't believe in insurance. So that mill cost him about $600,000, and I believe in 2015, $16, that's about $14 million. So that's a pretty sizable loss, and that was really what ended Schumacher's kingdom as a sole owner of oatmeal factories. After that, he had to go into business with the other people there, and believe it or not, there were a bunch of mills around here. So he collaborated with about 10 other mills, which actually one of them had the trademark Quaker, which is where the Quaker oats came from.
Right.
That was a mill out of Ravenna, and they had the Quaker logo, and so that was something that was brought in, which is interesting.
So Don, you seem really not knowledgeable about all of this, and I know you and Chris have known each other, and this is something that I just got to meet you for the first time today. How long have you been working here at the Mustill Store, and how long have you been interested in the history of the canals in Akron and all that? I mean, you sound like you've been doing it for a while now, so it's very
local oatmeal historian.
Right? No. There's
put that on a business card.
Yes. Yeah. Right. I've been here. I've been the executive director for just 2 years now.
Okay.
So, and it took me over 50 years to become interested in history. It's really one of those things that, you know, like you said, you go by here and people, I love when people come in and go, oh, gosh, I grew up in Akron and I've never been here before.
Right here.
Well,
right here.
And it's so awesome. And I was one of those same people that, you know, I don't know, the Mustill Store, you ride by it on your bike. But
honestly, I could honestly say I did not know this. You could go inside this building.
Yes.
I didn't know that until I walked in today. I thought it was just a historical site, like one of those historical buildings that they don't allow people in. But that it has this amazing museum, and that it's a store, and that it's pretty fascinating that it's been here this whole time in my 25 years of life. I did not know that.
Right. Well, and it is, you know, we've experimented with some hours. You know, we thought about staying open later, but it's interesting because it's the workout crowd that goes by here later. So we really determined our sweet spot was 10 to 4. Yeah. And if you come down here and run at 6 o'clock, you see the doors closed, and you know, that's because you're running, you're not stopping to look in a museum.
That's right. That's right.
And it's really, it's interesting because not only do we act as a museum, but it's really a visitor center. You know, we are the connection between, you know, Akron to the south, and then the metro parks in Cuyahoga Valley National Park to the north. We get a lot of people from out of town. A lot of people ride the train, go to the north side, and then stop here. Where are we? You know, what can we do? You try to push them into Akron because it's such an interesting change in the path.
Yes.
Coming from the Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
Especially with all the construction going on right now. Yeah. And one day, I mean, the construction will end. And I love, I work at the food bank. The
sure.
Akron Food Bank. And we have bikes that we can take out for lunch. And the towpath is right by the food bank. So I love jumping on the path and taking a 30-minute ride and you know, stretching my legs and doing all that. And the path right now through downtown Akron, I love that it zigs in and zags in and out, that you go past Canal Park, that there's basically 2 paths right now. You can go up on top of Canal Park, you can go underneath and go through Lock 3. It's really interesting and cool to see that I would bet a lot of people don't know that path goes straight through downtown Akron.
Right. That is one of the nice things about being here and being able to tell people and calm their fears about going into an urban setting, because I think a lot of people, you know, they get on their bikes and hey, I'm going on the towpath, and then they get to North Street and it's like, where am I going? Yeah. I don't want to go into a city because I don't want to navigate the streets and everything. Right. And they've really done, again, the collaboration is key, you know, Downtown Akron Partnerships, the Ohio and Erie Canal Coalition, the city, everybody has, you know, connected the dots through the city and made it a much more pleasurable ride through the city.
Yeah.
Not so scary. You know, there's a cycle track now. You're not taking your family out on the street. I think it's come a long way. And if our goal is to bring people in, young people to live downtown, you've got to have connectivity. And it's great that we can connect to our parks. Really, like you say, you can ride all the way to Cleveland from where you work. Right. You get on the towpath and go north.
I don't know if I'll ever end up doing that, but theoretically, I could.
You could. Or you could just jump on the train and take the train up there.
Yes. Or take a car.
So all this talk about bicycling and hiking and being downtown, why don't we head outside?
Great.
And continue our conversation.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So now we're outside of the Mustill Store. We've got the trail behind us. We also have this large area where it looks like they're doing some work. Can you talk about that?
That is Rack 22.
Rack 22.
And that's part of the CSO project, the Combined Sewer Overflow Project. So this is Cuyahoga Street is on the other side, and then Howard Street. So it's considered the Howard Street Rack. And what this does is after a rain event, all the water will come off of North Hill, and it will run through this they call it a rack. It's kind of like a big basin. And so what that does is it takes out all the big solids. So maybe branches, cups, things like that will be taken out into that rack. And then the water it won't be treated, but it will be cleaner and put out into the Little Cuyahoga. The Little Cuyahoga is what the waterway we see right here.
Okay. And so is this part of all that construction going on downtown that, a lot of people have complained about, and this is to improve our waterways, and it's called the Waterways Renewed, right?
Right. That's Waterways Renewed. They communicate and they tell us and keep us up to date on what's going on. So there is the OSIT project, which is the Ohio Canal Interceptor Tunnel project, which is just north of here on Hickory Street, where the tunnel boring machine, the TBM, and her name is Rosie, that will start really in the next few weeks. So they'll start boring a 27-foot diameter tunnel from Hickory Street to Exchange by 69 Taps to Howe House.
Okay,
it'll come out there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one part. These racks are another part of the project, as well as many other street projects, Dart Rand. I mean, if you travel around Akron, you've certainly experienced them.
There's been some adversity lately. And you had told me earlier that there are tours offered to see some of this in action.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about these tours.
We partnered with Akron Waterways Renewed, and we act as the visitor center for these tours. Currently, they are the second and fourth Friday every month, and that's from 11:30 to approximately 1:30 or 2. You meet here at the Mustill Store. We have a video loop in here that describes what you're going to go see. Then you get on the trolley and they take you out. So then starting in August, it will be every week. So every Friday they will be doing tours out of here. So again, you'll meet here, you'll leave on the trolley and take off. And you can go to Akron Waterways Renewed, and there's a link there to sign up for the trolley tours.
And they're free, correct?
They are free.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're actually very interesting. And if you've done one a couple months ago, you can always sign up again, because these are construction sites. This has changed dramatically in the past few months. I mean, it looks a lot better. So the construction sites are fluid. They're always changing. So they have been bringing in the tunnel boring machine up on Hickory Street. So that's very interesting, is to see these giant pieces of this machine get placed on site, and they're going to put it all together. So it's always changing.
Sure. And so what's the end result of all this?
Clean water.
Clean water.
Yay.
That's a good thing.
Right. Yeah. So, people, it's at a cost, obviously. You can't build these things without cost. But I think that as a community, you have to embrace the fact that we need to clean our waterways. And you have to embrace the magnitude of this project. It's
right.
Not a lot of people get to be in a community where they have this size of engineering going on. This project size. It's quite remarkable. Whether you're a STEM school person and you are interested in engineering, or just like me that likes big trucks and things.
Sure.
You come down here, you're like, wow, that's a huge truck.
Yeah, the little boy in us is
right.
like, yes, construction
Absolutely.
vehicles. And, for those who are engineering students, it gives them an opportunity to see something they have in theory. It gives them a chance to see it in action.
Right.
The result of maybe stay in school, you can also design a giant boring machine named Rosie,
right.
which is going to tunnel through the earth.
Or whatever name you prefer.
Right, sure.
But yeah, how much more interesting is it to see and experience it like in person, rather than looking at it in a book or reading about it. Sure. And that's the great thing about being down here, coming down here. You're kind of like living history. I mean, you're here where canal boats used to go by, where our forefathers, built their first factories, and the first industries in Akron, started here. So we like to dovetail the need for water in with our forefathers, because this has been Akron's lifeblood for a long time, the canal. There was some politics getting it here, and it came here, and now we need to take care of our water.
Right.
There's the flow of sanitation has evolved dramatically, and I do like the way it's going. It's going in a good direction.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
So where would you like to go next?
Let's go to the Schumacher site.
Let's go to the Schumacher site.
All right.
All right, so we have crossed North Street, and we are on the other side, and we're going to check out
South side.
the big red wheel.
The big red wheel.
I'm sure that's not what it's actually called.
This
Don,
is
why don't
only
you
half
actually
of it.
tell us what the big red wheel is? Say that 5 times fast.
Yes. What the big? No, I can't.
Big
I
red
can't even
wheel.
say it once fast.
Big red wheel.
This was the Schumacher Mill, and this was the big wheel that was in the mill.
Yeah.
So you only see half of it because the other half was underground.
Right.
Right. So it was 36 feet in diameter, and their buckets were 10 feet wide. So, these were big buckets. Right. So two of us.
That's probably what
right.
Two of us would
two
probably
of
be
us.
it, yeah.
So giant wheel, and it basically powered the whole mill. So pulleys would come off of this wheel.
The one wheel powered everything.
Right. So it would bunch of pulleys come off, and it was if you want to look it up, it was an overshot wheel, which come down here and look at these pictures.
An overshot wheel.
Right, and you will be able to determine what an overshot wheel. That was these are.
See, you learn something new every day, folks. I did not
you
know
do.
that there was different types of water wheels.
There are different types of water wheels, which is great.
Yeah.
I think
For whatever circumstance you may need a water wheel, you have different kinds to choose from.
Right, and back then there were this was before coal. They weren't burning coal back then. They didn't have natural gas. Obviously electricity. Right. So whether it's the canal or these mills, we think today we look at it and you're like, wow, that's really low tech.
So is this where the building sat?
This is where the building sat. So
Okay.
you can see there are sandstone
Yeah.
outlines in the grass.
Oh, yeah.
So they've actually outlined the building where it was. So
Oh, wow.
the
And
foundation is outlined.
This was the building back
Right.
here.
Mhm.
If you can see
Yep.
past my big head back here.
Right, which is
Wow.
now our Monarch Way Station with help from the Akron Garden Club and the Sierra Club Portage Trail people that we put that in, which is great. Our pollinators were friendly.
That's
but
right.
the canals are in front. The canal was in front of us, so
Right.
this would have been the back of the mill.
Okay.
So the canal boats would have pulled up to the back.
Okay.
They would have taken the processed flour, loaded them on the canal boats, and taken them up to Cleveland,
Okay.
then to the East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So was this probably the biggest water wheel in Akron?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm going to say
Would you think so?
it was. Yeah, it was a giant wheel.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge.
It's huge, right.
It's a big red
Right.
wheel.
Yes. And again, the technology, it was so brief, because then they started burning coal.
Right.
Steam came, so you can imagine building a wheel of this size
Right.
wasn't something you just
Did
whip out in
on the
a couple
weekend.
days, right? With your DIY
Hey guys,
skills.
I built this big wheel on the weekends.
Right.
Check it out.
Yeah.
It's an overshot wheel.
Right. Yeah, it's an overshot wheel. So figure that one out. So it didn't last that long. And the great thing about Schumacher was he was a tech guy. He was a technology guy. So when new technology came, he was always worried about the bottom line. And if it could make him more money, he was going to do it. So, hey, coal is a lot more efficient than falling water.
Right.
I got coal. Let's do coal.
Okay.
Natural gas is better than coal. Let's do natural gas.
So, right here, you also have the railway lines.
We
and you
do.
also have the street. And I
Yes.
know we were looking at the diagram earlier in the store, and, this has always been North Street. It's always, no, it
right.
hasn't.
Well,
Oh, has it?
as long as I know, it's been North Street. In the old.
So this was kind of an ideal location for the mill to be at.
Right. Yes. And a lot of that has to do with the natural landscape. So, Summit Lake is the Continental Divide. so the water is falling down. So rather than going up to Cleveland, we actually go down to Cleveland because it's all downhill.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so you had a nice drop in elevation here, and really that's why you have so many locks. So lock 15 is in front of the Mustill store. We all know where lock 3 is, lock 4.
Mm-hmm.
So you figure that's less than a mile, and we've got like 11 or 12 locks.
Yeah.
20 minutes to a half hour on a canal boat to get through every lock. Wow. That's with no traffic. You know, one canal boat fit in the lock.
We complain about traffic nowadays, but think if you were on a canal boat.
Right. If you were at North Street and it took you 5 hours to get into downtown Akron.
Oh, my gosh. That'd be terrible.
Right. No wonder there were gambling halls and saloons.
People are like complaining because they think the construction is bad now. Because, that construction, it's causing me to be late to work.
Right.
What are you talking about, people? If you had to take a canal boat anywhere, not that you had to take a canal boat anywhere, but that it would take you 5 hours.
5 hours.
To get through downtown Akron.
Right.
Wow.
Which is really crazy. And, the other interesting thing we don't know, we know a lot about it, but it's the smells that I always think about. So, there's a lot of things that, you think about in history, but to go back and you got to wonder what it smelled like.
I don't want to. I don't think I want to, Don. I think
because you were living with your mules stayed on your canal boat.
Gross.
Everything went in the canal.
Everything.
Right, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, and then you swam in it.
Yeah, that's you drank from it.
Right.
You did it like fish. We say like fish poop in the ocean. What do you think? Where did all the water? Everything went in the canal,
right.
Don. Everything.
Everything went in the canal because it just went away. It was beautiful.
That's gross.
Yeah,
it's really gross.
So and that's so we learn. Well, we hope to learn, and so the canal. The mills were here, and eventually, the mills ran their course,
right.
And then a guy named Benjamin Franklin Goodrich came into town.
Hey,
and he brought with him rubber.
Okay.
And so initially he wasn't making car tires because cars weren't invented. So
right.
What do you think he was making?
He was making, Don, I will answer this question with utmost knowledge.
Okay.
He was making inflatable pool toys.
To float down the canal.
That's right. What was he making?
He was making hoses. Which we were talking about
that was my next guess.
The fire brigade, so the bucket brigade. So
mm-hmm.
He developed hoses for fire hoses, and also bicycle tires. So it all started with bicycle tires.
Okay.
Yeah. The bikes were very popular in the late 1800s, and
right.
So the tires started.
So earlier we were talking about the canal path itself, and you
mm-hmm.
mentioned something. I don't know if we mentioned it.
They call that the prism.
The prism.
The prism, right.
Okay. It wasn't always here. There wasn't always that you could ride your bike or something on the canal path. Is that
correct? On the towpath.
On
that
the
is
towpath,
correct.
I should say.
Exactly.
On the towpath.
Right.
Do you know when that came around? Because, that's now a huge staple in Akron is you can ride the towpath.
It is. Right. So I believe that I'm not sure the exact date, but around 2000 is when the connection from the Mustill south.
Okay.
So when they redeveloped this site, 2010. What am I talking? The house was redeveloped in 2000. This site was 2010. So it hasn't been that long ago that the path was put through into Akron. And really, when they first came to the Mustill house, there wasn't a path. It was just a trail. So that was, in the late 80s, early 90s. And I'm not sure when the path actually got to North Street, but
it's kind of crazy to think. I used to live in Kenmore, and
mm-hmm.
the towpath was right by my house.
Right.
That the towpath, it starts way past Barberton. It starts all the way down in past Canal Fulton, right?
You go down to Zor. There's a path.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that you can take that path. I think, like you said earlier, all the way up to Cleveland.
Right. It's approximately 100 miles.
Wow.
Right.
That's I was training for the marathon last year, and I didn't end up actually running. I hurt my knee. Long story, but if you're gonna train for a marathon, people, do it smartly.
Right. Don't hurt your knee.
No, but my goal is to run the towpath in increments. So like I'd run from point A to point B, and then I'd run from point B to point C, and I wanted to run the whole towpath. And I got all the way up to there's another store. I can't remember what it's called, but it's up like in Peninsula.
Right, the Boston store.
That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So I got all the way up there by running it, and, then tragedy. Yeah, and I hurt my knee, and I had to end up dropping out. But, just that experience of just being on the towpath. I remember as a fourth grader, I believe, taking the train and riding the train all the way through. And if my math is correct, that's before they did all this.
Yes, it probably didn't come all the way this far south. Yeah.
No.
And it again, I think it's the connectivity, and a lot of people we take the path for granted, and we don't understand that it takes organizations a lot of time and money to maintain this beautiful path.
Okay.
And it's all free. You can access it from anywhere. Here we're standing on North Street. You can access the towpath, and you can go south or north.
And they built the I think it's so cool. They built the barges over Summit Lake, not the barges, the piers, I should say.
Right. So it's the floating path.
The floating path. So it goes right across, and we were talking earlier about this area also that we were standing in, and it wasn't redeveloped. Up until 2010. Right. What was here before?
Well, but the factory, Schumacher's Mill was here, but then through time, really it was just a dump site. Wow. I mean, unfortunately, there was. We talked about it before. There was a little goat path that going through because it was the Canal Prism, but the area that we're standing on really was just overgrown trees. If you had a bag of garbage, you'd probably pull up and throw it out. Yeah, it's remarkable the change has happened. And
there's still change to come, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. You just look across the street at that.
Hey, Chris,
the
can
Cascade
we pan
Lofts.
over? So I want to pan over if we can, if we don't lose focus. And this is, I think you were saying, this area down here, walk with me, Don, is that it's redeveloping. Oh, no, I got caught. Redeveloping into almost a small, like up in Peninsula, like you were saying, like a cool area right on the towpath with restaurants and living quarters and stuff. So
we've got lofts over here. This is the Cascade Lofts, and they've got.
This is fairly new too.
Yes. This is. Was it this February? I think it was this February that, or the February before. Time flies. So and it had been an eyesore forever, and Tony Tropy really did a nice job with this. It's residential living, and then
hey, we know that Tony Tropy.
On the other side, it will be an event space and Lock 15 Brewery.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the cool thing, and we'll try to get a shot of it later to show everybody, is there's now a bridge.
There is a bridge
that goes straight from your store,
the Mustill store
over to there,
over to the site. And we hope our goal is to maintain a path all the way up to Cascade Village, which is just up North Street. It's 250 or 240 housing units up there, and we would like to have them be able to access the path with the path rather than walking down North Street.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Now, let's head back inside because there's a few more things I definitely want to talk about, Don. So let's head back inside the store.
Okay. We'll talk later.
All right. So one thing that I definitely wanted to ask, Don, and we have these amazing diagrams here that toys. Is I feel like this should be something that everybody does know, but I think there might be some people out there that don't know how a canal works.
Right.
So we have a video podcast. So the cool thing is that we can actually show people how canals work.
Right, because it's much easier to explain with toys.
That's right.
Than it is with just words.
That's right. Okay, so Chris is going to go handheld here real quick. So Don, why don't you step over here to this side and explain to me how this all works.
Okay, so really you're looking at it's difficult to understand how a lock works. So this would have been a lock. It's a walled basically it acts as a stair. So it would help the canal boat go up or down. Okay. This would have been the canal. Okay. So the canal would have been, 40 feet wide, 4 feet deep. Okay. And it really is just where the mules would pull it when it wasn't going through a lock.
Okay. So if a boat is coming from up higher, water level, it needs to go down lower, it would follow a path like this one.
Right. So there would have been locked doors. So the boat would have pulled in from the upstream side.
Okay.
They would close the doors on both sides of the lock, and they would have released the water. So it would just be like draining a bathtub. The boat would have gone down in the lock. They would open up the the downstream doors, and the boat would have moved forward to the next lock.
Same thing over here.
Right, exactly. And here we actually have what the doors look like. So the doors would have been open. The boats would have pulled in. They would have shut the doors, and that would have been on both ends. And then whether it was going up or down, they would let the water out, obviously, with these valves, and release the water, and that would lower the canal boat if it was going downstream. Or they would shut these valves, and they would open a side valve, and that would let water into the lock.
Okay, so if I'm, this is very interesting because if you'll be walking by the lock, and you'll see little holes
in the lock
in
wall.
the side of the walls,
Right.
and that's what that's what
exactly.
that's for.
So that would have.
I always thought it was like a window for trolls or something like that.
Well,
but it's
now it is.
Whoa,
but then
gosh.
it was.
Oh my gosh! But it's where they would keep the excess water.
Right. So the water would have been diverted with a valve. They call this a butterfly valve. They would open or close the valve.
Wow.
And the water would have gone in or out, depending on if you want to move the boat up the river or down.
Very cool. So I think that's a great explanation of a great video explanation of how canals work.
Yes, and specifically locks, because that's right.
Locks.
The canal is, you're floating down the canal,
right?
But it's really the engineering is all in the locks. And if you'll notice, you'll see in the lock wall there's this inset, and that's actually where the doors folded back in, because the lock walls were 15 feet wide, and the boats were 14 and a half feet wide. So there was very little space to get these in. So the doors had to go back flush. The boat would pull in. This is a wooden boat. These are stone walls, so you didn't want the boat back and forth beating against the wall because it was tough on the boats.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you,
It is very cool. Yeah. It's simple but elegant.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to wrap up here. We're in the main area of the Mustill store.
If you walk into the front doors, you'll see this beautiful open area.
And Ryan, did you learn a little bit about canals today?
I learned so much. This is probably one of the coolest live podcasts.
That's awesome.
Or video podcasts that we've done. I'm so happy when we get to have people on that. Not only do we get to show people this wonderful thing of Akron that not a lot of people know, but I also love to learn about it. And we always joked, one of the original hosts of the show, my good friend Ben Arrington, we always joked that we started this podcast to introduce Ben to Akron, a guy who had lived in Akron his entire life, but knew nothing about it. So I sometimes feel like that when I get introduced to these amazing places and these amazing people that I didn't know about before. So again, thank you, Don, for coming on today.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to have you guys. It's an opportunity. Like I said, it took me over 50 years to figure all this out, and it's fascinating. I mean, and you learn something like every day. You feel like a cool nugget.
Yeah.
It makes Akron. I mean, I love Akron, but it even makes it better because all this cool stuff happened, back before Firestone and Goodyear and everything.
Right.
It's like, who knew? 1800s, all this stuff was going on.
Yes, so it was cutting edge at the time, too. It really was. So, Don, do you have any upcoming events you'd like to plug? First of all, actually, give us your URL. It's Cascade Locks.
Cascade Lock Park Association.
Cascade Lock Park Association.
CLPA.
CLPA.org.
CascadeLocks.org.
CascadeLocks.org.
Yes.
That's where you can find out more about the Cascade Locks Park Association.
Right. And you can always find us on Facebook. So every Friday we have a cookout here. We call it Free Lunch Friday.
What time?
It is. Wow. I get the grill fired up at about 11:30.
Totally coming down here this Friday.
So and we actually have music this Friday. So either the OSIT tours here, we'll have music, we'll have questing. Really, Fridays are great. So if you're walking down from downtown, you want a little break from the food trucks or something like that, come on down. I'm grilling and chilling, and it's free.
Grill Master Don
Right.
up in
Sounds
here.
like a plan. We'll be there.
So,
I like it. I like it.
Please do. It is a lot of fun. So then we also have a big fundraiser, which is called Life and Death on the Locks. It's a murder mystery gala, and it will be held at the Trailhead Event Space at Cascade Lofts. So it's right across the bridge in front of our store. It's September 16th. It is dinner with open bar. So it's actually going to be a lot of fun. So there'll be actors, and Ryan said that he was an actor. So
I'm totally up for this.
Maybe we can get him in on it. Yeah, he would be a good fit. So period clothing is.
Oh, I have that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's not mandatory, but it'll be much cooler if you come in your period clothing.
Yes.
So
All
that
right.
is Saturday, September 16th at the Trailhead Event Space.
Okay, great.
And you can find that Eventbrite or our Facebook page.
Very cool. Very
Super.
cool. Well, Chris, I know there was a couple of events you wanted to give shout-outs for before we end this wonderful podcast.
Sure. I'm part of a group called Free Akron Outdoor Movies. We do free movies outdoors in very scenic settings. We're actually doing one at Goodyear Park. Goodyear Park this Saturday, July 22nd. We're showing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Great spot.
So that sled riding hill is going to be a natural
Fantastic.
movie seating.
That's awesome.
Incline. So please come out. It's free, as the name implies. Also,
Oh my gosh, that's that's awesome. That hill is huge.
It's huge. Yeah, it's going to be great. So I think we're going to start the movie around 9 o'clock. Okay. We're going to have a popcorn truck. We're going to have a square scullery truck. There's going to be someone from the Metro Parks who's kind of co-hosting with us, and she's going to do some crafts for children and some arts and crafts type of activities. Next Wednesday, July 26th, is our finale for Full Circle Storytelling at Jilly's. That kicks off at 7 p.m. And
with our good friends, Wandering Aesthetics.
Wandering Aesthetics. Kyle Joseph has worked with some of the best storytellers from throughout the year to cultivate their story. And there are going to be 8 storytellers, and there's also a special guest storyteller, a Nepali refugee, who's going to talk about
Very cool.
his first love in the refugee camp. So. So what about you, Ryan?
All right, so the events I have that are coming up this Friday and Saturday, and next week, Friday and Saturday. If you got kids or you just love Disney, come see Little Mermaid at Dynamics Community Theater out in Talmadge. Cody and myself are in that show.
Is he the Little Mermaid?
No, yeah. Cody is not the Little Mermaid. He plays the chef. He plays the chef. So I help make costumes for the show, and I have a small ensemble piece. So make sure you come out for that. That's going to be great. Then Copper Pennies will be playing at Rose's Run Country Club on the 27th of August, and we will be at Nuevo in downtown Akron on August 1st, I want to say.
Okay.
I'm going to say August 1st, and if it's not, someone will yell at me. And then the one thing
that's a Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's say August 1st, people. Copper Pennies, Nuevo, and downtown Akron. And the last thing I want to say is I am currently doing a show at the Akron Civic Theater, Rocky Horror Show. I play the devious and nefarious butler Riffraff.
You've got long blonde hair.
I can't wait. I get to wear a bald cap and everything. It'll be great. If you would like to come see that, please buy your tickets. It's August 15th, 16th, and 17th. Buy your tickets.
Where's that?
Akron Civic Theater. Like Friday night's already sold out. Wow. Thursday night's going quick. Wednesday night tickets are also going quick. So make sure you buy your tickets. It's limited seating, 200 seats per show. They do it cabaret style, drinks and stuff. It's we did Avenue Q there earlier this year, and it was a great time. So make sure you get your tickets to come see that. Don, I want to again say thank you so much for being on today's episode. This was by far, I think, one of the coolest video podcasts we've done.
Great. Thank you. Come to the Mustill Store.
Yes, please
come to the
and
Mustill
check it out.
Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 4.
This is an awesome place, and I have to say, since you've taken the helm of this organization, I mean, I've noticed a lot more activity, a lot more visitors, just a lot going on.
A lot more podcasts coming down here and recording.
And I appreciate that. It's such a great asset, and we want to show it off. That's I mean, absolutely. I think that's what it takes. Akron wants to shine things up a little bit, and hey, come visit.
That's awesome.
It's a history lesson. The past few times I've been here, I've learned new things. Yeah. Even today I did. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Don, thank you so much.
You.
And as we always say to end our episodes, keep it an Akron day.